Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. Here we are on the Guitar Cast with our guest, Adam Tressler.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Andy.
Hey, man.
It's good to see you.
It's great to have you. I was thinking about this today. I think we must have met at Berklee probably like 12 years ago.
Probably, yeah.
I think we're in roughly the same class there.
Yeah, I was there 04 to 08.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about before Berklee, where you grew up.
Yeah, sure. I'm from Cleveland, like a suburb outside of Cleveland. Spent my whole adolescence there and then went to Berklee at 18. It was a cute little like suburb with a waterfall and, 100 people in my graduating class. And I had a great guitar teacher there. I met I started when I was 10.
Yeah.
At 11, I met this great guitar teacher, and I had him he went to Berklee, so he prepared me kind of like how Berklee does it, and then that was the.
Did you was Berklee like just the obvious choice, or did you even have any other schools in mind?
No, I didn't apply anywhere else.
Same here.
Yeah, and I had gone to like some of the summer programs, leading up to
5 week, and
I did like just the guitar sessions.
Cool.
I did that 3 years, and then the last year I went, I got a scholarship. So
nice.
I figured at that point I would get into college.
Yeah, I did not. I mean, I would have totally done those programs. I had no idea Berklee even existed until like well into high school. But same thing. Like I didn't apply anywhere else. So it was kind of like that was where I wanted to go.
We were lucky too because ours was the last year you didn't have to audition to get in. So
I was explaining that to somebody a couple days ago, and like the very first semester I was there was also Roger Brown's first semester as the new president, and that changed a lot of things at that school, mostly the admissions process. And I honestly, I don't think I would have. I don't know if I would have been accepted because I tested in at like 2s and 3s, and I think I've heard, I don't know this for sure. I think you have, it's out of a level of 8 being the top and 1 being the lowest. And I think you have to have about fours in all the categories to even be accepted now.
Wow.
So like, I kind of lucked out because I was not really a studious academic player at that point. But yeah, immediately after that, the admissions process became a lot different. Now you do have to audition before you go there, which we didn't have to do.
But you can also now major as like a producer. So even if you're not like a burning instrumentalist,
that's cool.
You can, if you're like really good in Logic or
that's very cool.
Ableton, you can still get in as that.
Man, that's cool because I wanted, once I got there. And I was, because you had to be a player of some kind. You had to, no matter what your major was going to be, you had to be an instrumentalist or a vocalist. And then you could, from there, choose business or whatever you wanted to get into. But I remember thinking that I wanted to be a producer, and I was in the contemporary writing production program. But I remember thinking, how do people become a producer? There's no school where you just go, I'm going to be a producer. Like there's nothing that you do to just sign up to be a producer. It seems like producers are all former players.
Sure.
And you have to have that background. Yeah. So that's cool that they have that now. I probably would have gotten on that, had it been available.
That. Yeah.
So when you got to Berklee, did you have a teacher that you kind of stuck with, or did you study with a lot of guys?
I jumped around because I was a performance major, so the whole major is basically taking lessons. So like I probably had like 10 or 12 instructors throughout the time I was there, and kind of eventually settled into like a few that I really liked towards like the last couple of years. But there's 80 guitar teachers there, I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's what styles were you into? Or I guess going back when you were studying in high school and stuff, what were you playing?
I went through like my like Hendrix and my mostly rock, I guess would be the answer. I got into like Dream Theater and Steve Vai, but never really got good at playing it. It was just like I liked guitar music. I loved Van Halen, but never really like learned how to do what those guys did. It was just like I liked listening to it, and then I was in a jam band in high school, and also in like kind of like an emo band. So like kind of like dipped my toe. I was doing some singer-songwriter gigs, which is like kind of primarily what I do now. So, like,
and did you start writing back then too, or did that come later?
I feel like I was doing some little writing in my room, but like never played any of it for anybody, and like was really self-conscious about my singing. So I didn't really get into that until like towards the end of Berklee, really. Yeah,
I'm kind of the same way. Like I was always a player first, and then started singing in bands and stuff only because nobody else would do it. We weren't. There was no band. There was no like lead singer frontman style thing in the bands that I was forming and playing in. It so somebody had to sing lead on this stuff, and I just fell on the guitar player. And so I started doing that. And even through Berklee, I did not consider myself a vocalist.
No,
you know,
me neither.
I didn't want to sing in front of anybody. I remember being embarrassed in Ear Training 1, having to sing.
Oh, and it was your turn.
Sing Do Re Mi, and all you had to do is sing like Do Re Mi and solfege and stuff. And not only me, everybody in the class, it seemed like.
Oh yeah,
was like, don't call on me, don't call on me.
It's like the one singer in the class that would kind of like make everyone
with
go
some
first,
vibrato
you know,
and stuff like that. Yeah, man, that was a trip. Did you? So as a performance major, you must have had like recitals and.
Yeah, you have to just do your senior recital, but like I was playing a lot of people's recitals like throughout the time there, and like I mean I was studying jazz, you know, like at Berklee seemed like the right thing to do, just like kind of pursue the limits of like my instrument and like my ear and stuff like that. So like I knew I wasn't going to be a jazz musician, but it seemed like just academically like the way to go. Sure, and
the teachers there, most of them have a jazz background, and they can really dig into it.
Right.
So that sounds to me like by playing on other players' projects and recitals and stuff, which there was a lot of that in school, you know, people working with each other for whatever major you're in. Did that prime you for kind of what you do now, which is like play with, you got your hand into like 10 different projects and lots of different bands and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think for sure, you know, because like I was trying to do different styles there, and like got good at sight reading, which like kind of like put me in some situations at Berklee, at least, that like those like kind of like singer showcase kind of these, like they would have all these singers and they do these big shows.
It's all
and
written
like,
out.
Oh, like I want to do that, you know, like so got into I always liked the idea of like the musical ADD, just kind of like bouncing around, and who knows if I had gotten a call to like join some band at that time, like maybe I would have gone for it. But the session work kind of always seemed a little more attractive to me. Yeah.
That's. I mean, you know, I think all players, there's a little bit of that for everybody. You know, because you just can't avoid playing with some other bands and players and stuff. It seems like I was always wanted to have a band, like a solid band as my main thing. And then sometimes that worked and sometimes it didn't. But I definitely learned a lot about working with others at Berklee. Because they had, you know, let's say you're in the MP&E, music production engineering, and you're learning recording on a console and using a studio. The projects that you would have to do for that were to record a song.
Right. So
you would have to go find players, and those players would be performance majors, you know, other players. My major was kind of using production on a smaller scale, like not a console, but like laptop production and sequencing and stuff. And we had projects where we would have to write for a horn section, and they would bring in the horn players for those projects, so we would have to write for strings, and they'd bring in strings for that. So there was a lot of, which is the way the industry works, is, you know.
Sure. It's a project.
Yeah, you have different people in different roles making one project come together. So I thought that was pretty good preparation for, especially coming to LA, where that's like, just all that stuff is just magnified on a bigger
totally.
level with bigger budgets.
Yeah.
So you went to New York. You lived in New York for a while after school?
I did 3 years in New York after Berkeley. Just there were some bands I was playing with and like artists, and it just like everyone was moving there. I'd always told myself I was going to move to LA, but like it was just like New York just kind of like happened, and it was fun. I moved with like great group of people and was like working right away. But after a few years, just kind of feel the siren call of the West Coast. And just see like that my friends that were living out here were doing a little better and like doing a little more like kind of what I wanted to be doing.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's funny because I know a lot of the people that you're talking about, that whole gang, that whole crew of students that went out to New York. And like, if you go down the list, like almost all of them are out here now.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Everybody.
I feel like I was a little ahead of the curve. I moved out here 6 years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. Like pretty much everybody. And it's not just the people from Berkeley. It's like all the musicians in New York just kind of feeling that squeeze a little bit.
Yeah.
And unless you've like either like committed to the scene, which is like incredible, and or you know you've got a Broadway gig or something like that, then like it just seems like there's more to be had out here.
Or a late night TV spot, you know.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So, and you still travel to New York quite often, right?
Yeah, I mean, like a few times a year at least. You know, it's always for one-offs and like little sessions or whatever. But I like that I don't get lost when I'm there. Like there's places that I like. There's people that I can call up to see. But I don't know if I could live there again. Yeah,
man. You know, I never lived there. I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if it's my speed personally.
Sure.
But you know, I like to visit there, and
it's
I've
great.
Played there a handful of times, and it's always a kind of a wild scene, you know.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
You gotta love it,
right?
Know?
So you've done a handful of these late night shows, right? Like
a
lot of them are in New York, and a lot of them are out here, I would imagine.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of split even. You know, like the Colbert Show and like Fallon are on the East Coast, and then they've got some like all the NBC stuff is over there.
So tell me about the experience of playing on a late night show like Colbert or Fallon.
Yeah, I mean, like the most exciting one was I did Saturday Night Live, like about a year and a half ago, with Selena Gomez, and that one was cool because, like, I mean, obviously, like, you watch that show, like, you know that set, like, you know that stage, and like when you're there, there's like an awareness among the crew that like it's how special it is for everybody else. Like to them, you know, it's their job, it's like work. They're going about their thing, but like they do care to like. They'll answer your questions or like ask you who your favorite performances were and like maybe give you little like anecdotes if they were there or whatever. So like that's cool. Like I haven't really experienced that on other of those shows.
Right.
The crew's just kind of there to do their job, and also they're doing a show every day for most of those other ones. So moves a lot quicker. But Saturday Night Live was really cool. You go in a few days before and you do your sound check, and the weekend we did it was the weekend of this crazy snowstorm in New York where they had like essentially shut down all the trains. SNL was the only show that happened. There were no Broadway shows that night. It was a ghost town, and we had to spend like pretty much the whole weekend like at NBC because they weren't sure that they'd be able to get us to and from the hotel. So that was,
I mean, that's kind of cool.
It was cool. You got a little extra time to like wander, but you also like don't want to be like that guy that's just like searching through all the drawers. Yeah.
That is pretty cool. And it is live, right? Like for real live.
Well, yes, but they do a taping 2 hours before the live broadcast, just in case something goes wrong.
Yeah.
So like you do a 9 p.m. full audience dress rehearsal, like run through, and then even from there, they're cutting sketches, they're changing jokes. They bring in a new audience. So
where do you hang out while the show's happening?
There's a series of dressing rooms.
Yeah.
And you're not really permitted to like be in the studio because it's like everything's moving so quickly. The sets are like flying in and out, and like the hallways are hectic.
Did you meet any of the cast?
Yeah, a little bit. Like we were like lucky that somebody, it wasn't me, but somebody was like, I wonder if we can ask Selena if we can come out for the closing credits, because that was always like, oh, that would be cool to like be there and like
you always see
wave
everybody out there and, totally
and that came to pass, so like there wasn't like a time spent with the cast, but like just like little moments, and like right when the camera stopped rolling, it's everyone's kind of together for like a few minutes, but I didn't get anyone's cell phone number. No one told me to hang out.
That's cool, man. And what about like Colbert? Like, does he make a point to meet all the players and stuff?
I haven't done Colbert, but normally like the host, like I just did Jimmy Fallon a few weeks ago, and he will like pop in and like wave, and kind of like maybe shake everyone's hand briefly, but I think it really depends on like
it's got stuff to do.
Yeah, what else is going on? Like if he has an extra 5 minutes, or he already has met the artist that's playing, maybe he'll pop in. But otherwise, like I understand, like they don't have to make time for us,
Yeah, and what about the Roots? Like,
their dressing room was like right next to the stage, and our dressing rooms were like a little down the hall. So like, I didn't see any of them besides like while we were playing, basically.
Right.
But other people go and do, and like maybe seek out that opportunity, or if they really want to meet Questlove or something like that, then they'll.
And those are taped. Those type of shows are taped like at 4 or 5.
Yeah, exactly.
And you guys do like multiple takes.
You have the option to do a second take.
Yeah.
And then you can afterwards. Like I went up with the musical director to like the little sound booth, and you kind of listen to both, and just kind of see like which you make the call upstairs, like which performance you want them to use.
And so for these, who were you playing with on Fallon?
His name was Chord Overstreet, and he was an actor earlier in his career, and then comes from a musical family. His father's a famous country songwriter, and now he does kind of a singer-songwriter thing. And it was cool. Like I've been playing with him for a few years, and that was the biggest opportunity for him, so it was exciting.
And are you doing lead stuff, or you backup stuff, or
Chord plays guitar, so I do the more advanced like parts if there are some, but it's not like particularly like technical music or anything like that. So it's still like parts, and there were 6 or 7 of us on stage, so plenty to cover.
Cool. And so what was like with you mentioned Selena Gomez, what were some of the like, and you traveled with her, right?
Yeah.
What was some of the bigger or more interesting cities or venues that you played in?
It kind of all happened really quickly like that, because that's not the kind of gig that I thought that I was gonna get the call for. Just for like my onstage presence isn't quite as like what I would imagine, like the rock star long hair, like headbanger guy. But for whatever reason, like it happened really quickly, so like it was like in the course of a few weeks we did like Staples Center and like MSG, and then like SNL was like a month after that. So I didn't do a ton of gigs with her, but there were all these like arena shows. So it was fun. That was my first chance ever playing in a venue like that. So
cool. I've never done anything of that size. Yeah. Not even really close. I've played like theaters and stuff. And not even that many times. But what's your takeaway on playing an arena sound wise for like your own sound?
Right.
Can you see the audience most of the night?
Like not really. Maybe other people you've had on here have talked about it. It's like it is kind of isolating because you have your in-ear monitors, so if you have those in, they do blend in crowd mics sometimes, but like otherwise, like you would have no clue that there's even people out there. You can see that there are people far from you, but you can't really make eye contact with anyone past like the 10th row, So,
and were those performances on a Pro Tools track, or was it just live? Was it just?
There are definitely tracks, you know,
Yeah.
like just because there's so much in the records, and there's dancers and just like production,
Yeah.
and everything has to be like timed
Pyrotechnics and
out. Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
Everything has to be timed like precisely. So we were playing the tracks, but like there wasn't the tracks like covering anything. It was only the things that were not being performed on stage. Like,
Yeah, the hits.
Yeah.
The hit points.
yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool, man. And so you've definitely, I've heard a lot of the stuff that you've written and played on some other records. Like, I had you come in and do guitar on Leanne Skoda's first kind of demo record.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think, did you write on Jen Hirsch's kind of first record? You did a lot of the writing on that?
Yeah, I wrote all those.
All those songs?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I was really impressed with that record.
Thanks.
Jen Hirsch we're talking about. And Jen and I were pretty close in college, and she was kind of trying to, I guess, find like what sound she wanted to do, because she's capable of doing a lot of different styles and things like that. And I remember talking to her throughout that record process, and it was Max Cohen was doing and he's part of the old gang from Berkeley back in the day, and he was doing the engineering, I think some of the arrangements and stuff like that. But you guys
he was producing,
brought in like, there's some choir on there.
Yeah, there was like a little gospel,
some string parts, I think.
We had a studio musician do some like mellotron stuff.
Okay.
I don't think we had string players.
Yeah. But it was the production on that is really good.
Yeah.
And the songwriting, which is all you, was really impressive songwriting. I don't know if that record ever really got the attention I think it deserved.
Yeah, it was. We spent a lot of time getting the songs together, and then like Jen did a great job like hiring Max and like getting the production of the record together. Then she kind of went on a different path for a second, and like tried like a TV thing. So the timing was just kind of, it got a little lost. But that record resulted in like, I got a publishing deal while I was in New York because of that record, and then that was why I moved out to LA, is because like I was given an advance, and I was like, oh, I can afford to move now.
Yeah.
So like,
well, that's great.
It was great process. I'm so proud of it.
We're talking about the record by Jen Hirsch. What's the title of the album?
It's called Myself in Two.
Myself in Two. It's on Spotify, but check that out. It's Adam's writing and Jen singing, and I really do think that there's some great stuff on there that a lot of people might not have heard.
Sure.
And then you've made your own records, a couple of them, right?
Yeah, I've made two.
Yeah.
I did one called Footnote about like 2 years ago. And then recently, earlier this year, I put out one called Lesser Known Presidents that was kind of this idea, like, conceptual thing. I'm a big like history reader.
Yeah. Well, I know that you have this fascination with American presidents, which I think is really cool. I remember being in like grade school and kind of having a similar, it ended up being kind of a phase, I guess, but it's obviously it's a fascinating historical topic. But tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so like I've always been a lover of history and like reading in general, and at a certain point, like I think I was still at Berkeley, I was like, I'm just going to read a biography of every president. So like I went through that, and like just always was kind of interested in using that as like an anchor for like American history, like basically through the lens of like the guys that led the country.
Sure.
So a few years ago, like I've always written songs about like kind of left of center things, and like I wrote one song about William Henry Harrison, who like died after 31 days in office, and then put that on my first record, Footnote. And then just like at a certain point, I just kind of like had this idea, like what if I wrote like an album of anecdotal songs about different like unknowns, like I don't
lesser known presidents.
Yeah, so I went through that, and worked them up with different producers and different musician friends, and put it out in February. And there's I mean, it's kind of long, you know. I think I covered like 15 or 16 presidents. Like no one later than I think Herbert Hoover was the most recent one.
So it sounds like you've got a few more albums that you could do, you know, until you run out.
I just can't bring myself to write about like Bill Clinton or or our current president, you know, or like
living presidents.
It just seems a little less fun than like if I can find these like little specific anecdotes and I can expand that into a song. They're not all like super biographical, you know.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool idea, you know, cool concept. So who's playing on that record? I know it's kind of a all-star band.
Yeah, I bounced around like there's a drummer named Rob Humphreys that I am close with, and he played on a lot of the tunes. There's a bass player named Alex Balderston who's great, and
love Alex.
Yeah,
Alex and I go way back.
Yeah,
I met Alex like right when I got out to LA. He was like 18 or 19, you know, and have done a lot of projects and stuff with him since, but love Alex.
Yeah, I did one with Drew Tubenfeld, who I know you've had on, and a musician named Louis Cato, who like I'm close with, that lives in the East Coast. But
Louis Cato, who plays in
he plays in like John Batiste's band on the Late
Colbert
show. And he and I had made my first record, Footnote, like together entirely. It was just like he played bass and drums.
Yeah, he's a multi-instrumentalist and just incredible at everything.
Yeah. So he played a little bit on it. I had my girlfriend, Jesselyn Brooks, who's a great like, jazz singer. She sang one of the tunes with me as a duet. And, you know, it was fun to be able to involve a bunch of different people since it was all different like styles and like it was just like a bunch of songs, you know.
I really love that part of making an album or getting a band together, getting a show together is kind of, it's exciting to pull from all your connections and people that your friends basically just we have a lot of talented friends, you know, so it's cool to get people involved and keep the scene alive. It's a community, you know. You mentioned Drew Tubenfeld, who's a former guest on the Guitar Cast. You've played his Monday night thing at the Hotel Cafe probably a handful of times, I imagine.
For sure.
Right?
It's a great showcase that they do like once a week, but then like once a month they do it with the house band.
The big one,
and it's always a great hang and like incredible music, and they do a really good job of like curating. So I'll be there.
So are you when you do those performances, are you doing stuff off of your records?
Yeah, I've done it as an artist, you know, and like played some of those songs. And since most of the house band is people that played on my record, like it kind of like falls together pretty easily. And then I've done it as like the guitarist in the band, which is fun. Yeah, it's just you know, you get sent a few songs and you learn them and then dive in.
Cool. Well, let's do a song, one of your songs, off of your most recent solo album.
Cool.
Lesser Known Presidents. You want to do let's do Snowball, and then we'll do the other one.
Cool. Yeah, so this song is called Snowball, and
it's an F, right?
Yeah. It's about John Adams and Abigail Adams, who had, this is kind of the story that I tell, is that they had like a pretty incredible long distance relationship. They were apart for years at a time, but they remained very close through, like, they wrote like over 1,200 letters.
Text messages.
Yeah. Ye old text messages. And so, one thing that he had said to her was that their love was like a snowball that would grow as it rolls.
Wow.
And I thought there was something really nice about that.
Didn't people used to be so much more eloquent? In their, you read all these like Civil War letters, and they're just like
it's
poetry.
Yeah.
People don't really do that anymore.
And you're sending it out, and like you don't even know if it's going to get there. Like we're talking like transatlantic, like you're basically throwing a message in a bottle like into the water, and just like hoping that it gets there.
I think because of that, though, because of those circumstances, people kept letters, and that's why you have all these throughout history. You have these collections of letters.
Sure, they knew
otherwise would have gotten trashed or burned or whatever. Nowadays, I mean, you're going to save emails and frame an email. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, there was definitely an awareness for these people that were public figures that like these will be read after we're gone. So like they kept copies of all their letters that they sent, and like they were very careful to save them, because some people, like, you know, Martha Washington burned all of George Washington's letters. Like, we really don't know what what his voice was like, you know. So I'm glad that they saved theirs, you know.
Cool. So this one is called...
This is called Snowball. And yeah, the recording of this is a duet with Jesselyn Brooks. But I'll just cover both, you know.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
The heart grow. I'm running out of room. My soul burns for you, but I got work to do. An ocean in between us, a message in a bottle, tossed in the blue. I hope this one gets through. And by the fireside, Jonathan found time to send off a letter for home. So at least she'll have something to hold. The snowball will grow as it rolls, picking up speed, gathering force. The snowball will grow as it rolls. Everywhere we pass now belongs to history. It's copied down in the books. 1200 back and forth. And by the new daylight, Abigail found time to send off a letter to John. There's something for him to hold on to, and the snowball will grow as it rolls, picking up speed and gathering force. The snowball will grow as it rolls. Picking up speed, gathering force. Love is a snowball that will grow as it rolls.
Yeah.
Nice. That was fun.
Very
Sounds
good.
good.
Very cool, man. Do you have a writing like process? Is it have you
You know,
is it evolving?
I like, you know, I'm a guitar player first, so
Yeah.
like the guitar part kind of always comes first. And for these songs, you know, it was like a topic I was already interested in. It was very specific, so like these were really easy songs.
Yeah.
Once I had decided about the project, I pretty much wrote like all the songs in that first week, and they're all short, you know. So you kind of just like, there's information that I wanted to get across, so that was, I mean, you still have to write a song, but it's like you already kind of knew what you wanted to say. Where like if I sit down to write a song for somebody else, or if it's just like a more regular kind of
Yeah.
topic, you got to dig a little
research.
Yeah, you got to do a little more research and like figure out what your angle is going to be to say what you're trying to say.
Sure. Well, yeah, that's cool. I like the writing on there because it keeps you interest. It keeps the listener like listening. I find myself a lot of times when I'm listening to some music that's very what's the word? It's just you get the same topics over and over again.
Sure.
So therefore you get a lot of the same lyrics, the same words. You know, you rhyme. I don't know, love and above or something. Right. Like you hear that so much that my ears just kind of shut off when I'm hearing a lot of music. But listening to your record, it's a wildly new subject matter for the most, like just
sure.
listing presidents and things that happened to them and things that they've gone through and stuff like that. And I don't know, it keeps me listening more so than other songwriting.
Yeah, I guess because it's like whether or not you're interested in American history, it's like Schoolhouse Rock, you know. It's like, oh, like there's something to be like,
it's educational
gained from this, you know. Like I haven't like really played a lot of like schools to try to get kids like jazzed about like the presidents or anything like that. But even if I can just get like my friends kind of like, they all know that even before this album came out, people kind of knew that I was interested in that. So like, you know, people, like want to maybe pay a little more attention to what's being said, just because it's true. You know, they might, like.
Well, and I think it's the kind of stories that you don't always hear. And like,
sure.
First of all, lesser known presidents we're already starting with people that aren't necessarily in the books so much.
Yeah, and
then you're digging into like a specific aspect or maybe a specific event that happened or something. It's like it's new. I mean, American citizens, right? We tend to. You know, if you ask your average person to list like as many presidents as they could, it'd be like 5 or 6 maybe, you know?
Right.
And there have been 45 of them. So it's that's kind of a cool...
Yeah. I wanted to humanize them a little bit. Like the first song on the record is about Martha Washington, and it's called Before She Turned to History. And like for me, that whole album is kind of that's the idea. Is like before these people were just like a Wikipedia page with like, oh, like John Tyler is the X number president. It's like, and that's all you really know about him. But like these guys all like led pretty crazy lives and like were titans of their day, and now they're kind of reduced to some, like Martha Washington is like this old lady with a bonnet on, you know. That was married to George Washington, but like tried to like find things. None of the songs are about like politics or like their positions on anything. It's just like if something
people.
Tragic happened to them, or their family, or something like amazing happened to them and their family. So,
yeah, and that's really cool. So, do you have any like in the future? What's your next project or your next like?
Yeah, I don't have.
Do you want to put that concept onto any other?
I don't know. I thought about it because I mean, like, Sufjan Stevens kind of comes to mind with like he had this Great States project or whatever. He was going to write an album about every state and like
whole album, huh?
Well, I think it was never like a serious thing, but he put out like a Chicago album and like a Wisconsin album or something. I forget, but I don't know if I'll keep with the presidents. Like, I mean, or even go any like more specific than that. Like, I mean, like I'm into like other historical periods. If I was to do anything else, it would probably be something. But like, I haven't really like learned enough about anything to formulate.
So have you played a lot of these live, or have you had like any kind of like a concert night where you go through the whole album?
Yes, I did like about a year ago. I did a show with all this music, and now when I play I don't play a lot of my own gigs, but like when I do, like I'll do a few of them, but not necessarily like try to play the whole thing. That to me like seems like it's kind of like inconsiderate to my audience. Like expect them to like just pay attention and like here now we're going to learn about you know like Andrew Jackson. And it's like you know, maybe not, but I
get that.
I like to do a couple and just like kind of have it. If you're interested in this, like there's the record. I'm proud of the record, so you listen to it there. But
And it's on Spotify.
Yeah, it's on
and
Spotify
it's
and
probably iTunes
yeah,
and everywhere else.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's do another one off of the album. 3 Whiskeys?
Yeah.
Cool.
What's
What's this one about?
This one is about Andrew Johnson, who was the president when Abraham Lincoln got assassinated, and basically, like, he was a good governor but a bad president, is what people say. He was the only, like, Southern governor that didn't take his state out of the Union. He was from Tennessee, but he got, like, hammered drunk the morning that he was sworn in as the vice president. And he gave this long, rambling speech, and, like, I think Lincoln, like, leaned into somebody and was like, make sure this guy does not speak in public, like, when we leave this room, because he talked for like 15 minutes, just rambling, and they say he drank like 3 big glasses of whiskey before he went out to give his speech. So, like, this song is called 3 Whiskeys, and it's kind of one of the more, like, fun ones on the record. It's a little more alive, but yeah, so this is about Andrew Johnson, who was our 17th president. It's called 3 Whiskeys. And you want to take the guitar solo?
Why don't we each take one?
All right.
I'll take the first one, and then you take one.
All right, cool.
Cool.
1, 2, 3, 4. Should have been the best day of his whole life. The halls were packed, they were there to pass the prize. Granted, he was nervous, so he took a little hair from the dog that bit him. Can you blame him? And he knocked him back 1, 2, 3. 3 whiskeys on the way out. Andrew Johnson stood to speak. 3 whiskeys on the way out. They tried to laugh it up, but he waved them off. Pulling at his coat, they were begging him to stop, but he rambled for 15 minutes. You could hear crickets, and it's just beyond belief. 3 whiskeys on the way out. And he knocked him back 1, 2, 3. 3 whiskeys on the way out. Should have been the best day of his whole life. He wasn't in command, but he was next in line. A man with a purpose. What if something happens to Mr. Lincoln? And he became the president after 6 weeks. 3 whiskeys on the way out. On the way out.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
that was fun, man.
Well, Adam Tressler, thank you so much for
Thank you, Andy.
being here on the show. And
This is
best
super
of luck
fun.
in the future.
Thank you, sir.
We'll have you on again.
All right, great.
All right, man.
Thanks, you.
Thanks.
Yeah.